Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Verse, Chorus, Verse, where we interview tons of people on all things related to music. Today we interview Brian Coakley. He is a songwriter. He's been at it for 30 years now. And today we interview him about the songwriting process, recording process, what it takes to be a good songwriter, and basically he just gives some tips on what he did. He shares his experience with what he did. Hope you enjoy. Thanks. By the way, get online to Burger Records and download all their albums, honestly, but specifically Dark No More by Blindhouse. Bye, guys.
Those there was a way that you could play those into the Roland 1880 and not have to use up a track. It would just play in, and that would be part of the mix. And then I would mix 16 tracks of actual band, and we were and so like I just got one of those, and I went from a 16 track ADAT studio with like a Mackie board and stuff.
Okay.
And a compressor and the old fashioned, like it had a patch bay on it. Remember, like the whole, like the TT patch bay with those little, you know. And so I went from that to the Roland. So then, okay, now I'm in the box. And then at some point it was weird. The Roland started to crap out or something. And I had a producer that I'd worked with a bunch, and everybody was using Pro Tools by this time, but not everybody had like really good Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And the guy I was working with, he was just like, just get something. So I got Logic, and at that time it was Logic Pro 7, and I had a G5 computer, and
that's not a very big computer.
No. I just started messing with it, though. You know what I mean? I just started messing around, and it's the weirdest thing, because just like 3 days ago, I have now I have like one of those little Apollo interfaces, the Universal Audio Apollo, and it's just like 2 inputs, 2 outputs. But you can record as much crap as you want. You just can't do a full band at one time. But for like one guy building a song, it's perfect. But the Universal Audio has really great plugins, and it comes with it. And like UA 610, the 610B, and the UA 1170, those are like in every studio I've ever recorded in my entire life. Those are in those studios, and it's classic hardware that's been around forever. Well, their plugins really emulate that super great.
Yeah.
And just for an example, so I've had this Apollo thing for like 3 years, and I've been recording with it. And I just realized that if I opened up the Apollo mixer, it's got a console too.
Yeah.
And I put the Apollo plugins in that, and then there's a button in there that's like, it's like monitoring or record. If I put it in record mode, then it's actually printing those killer plugins on my in-chain. You know what I mean? Like for forever, I've just been going through like a benign preamp input without any color and no compressor or anything, and then coloring it after the fact. But I just realized last night, like, holy shit, if I put that compressor on the insert, I mean, I don't heavily compress it, but it just gives it enough of that, like, kind of real, almost like the real tape sound. I was like, whoa, and this just was 2 nights ago.
So the recording for the Burger Records, the drums, you said it was not fake, but so it's digital. Does it sound digital?
No, not really.
Wow.
I mean, it's weird. Like, you listen to them and they don't. I mean, you could literally be fooled by it. I mean, there's something about like a real drummer
Right.
that is just gonna be like, I mean, look, here's an example. When Blindhouse went in the studio, Derek O'Brien is probably, I would actually say probably the best drummer that I've ever played with. And I've played with some really good drummers.
Okay.
And for sure for recording, he's the best guy that I've ever recorded with, because he is so precise in what he wants to do, but it still has feel. Like some guys are real precise, but they're like, dit, 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 and it's just, you can tell that they're tight and they don't feel it. He is just insane. Like he was doing this one tune where intermittently he was switching off between like rim shots, and like the snare, you could hit the rim shot or you can hit the center of the snare, and they make
Right.
the center of the snare is more like jazzy and the rim shot's more like rock, but he would switch that out in between in a song, and it's not random, it's really precise. Like he's doing it specifically for this and specifically for that, and you can you're like, you don't go, oh, I can tell he's switching off rim shots, but you're just like, holy shit, that drumming is fucking amazing,
Yeah. What's the name of the song that you said it already, and I didn't write
Dark
it down?
No More.
Dark No More. Okay. Did you record it in that room you're in?
I did, on this computer that I'm talking to you on right now.
Yeah. Dark No More. So tell me about it. I haven't heard it. Is it a ballad? Is it a rock beat or?
It's a weird song. It's a weird song even for me, but it's kind of it's kind of got a little bit of a Latin beat, backbeat.
Oh, really?
But like, it's weird. Like everybody that hears it says something, and it's interesting. Like everybody that has heard it so far, they go, that sounds like it should be in a Tarantino movie.
Oh, cool.
So it's really got a weird vibe. And I actually wasn't thinking Tarantino when I was thinking Marconi.
Okay.
So like, the guy, the good, the bad, the ugly, all A Fistful of Dollars.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha.
He always would do these things with like, and he'd have like these male voices doing this, and then they have the tricky little notes and stuff. And so I actually like to incorporate a bunch of that kind of crap into songs, For one thing, I can do it. You just stack a ton of vocals, and it's like, it's insane. I'll send you the track when we get done.
That'd be great.
We can't say we ain't scared of the dark no more. It's never ever been this dark before. We need somewhere to go to get us through this night. It seems darker every day, and we're down to our last flashlight.
Well, yeah, but it's like, it was one of those things where there was a power outage. Early on for us, we had this weird thing happen, and I was out in the studio out here, and the lights were like, they were going down, they were dimming out. We were having like a brownout. It was the weirdest thing. And the house, I have solar, but if you have a power outage, your solar actually cuts off, which is weird because they don't want the power going back into the line and possibly shocking. If you have a backup battery and you're off the grid, you can use your solar when you're on a blackout. But weirdly enough, we weren't. So we're having this power outage, and we're on quarantine lockdown, and it was just like, I don't know. Like I was like, with this thing being the way it is, I was like, well, we can't say we ain't scared of the dark no more, because we don't have power and we're stuck in the house. And so it was like, you can't say we ain't scared of the dark no more, and it's like that. So it's kind of this moody, trippy thing that you would go, wow, that's weird. I would have never expected that sound, Like everybody that even like play it for, it's like, they're like, holy shit, that sounds really cool. Never would have expected it, so.
That's
and
cool.
It technically isn't the Blindhouse song. It's on the compilation as Blindhouse. but that was just, you know, Frank, from the other guitar player from Blind House, did a bunch of stuff, and I put Latin percussion in it, which we have a Latin percussionist in Blind House. So it could have been Blind House, but who knows?
Let me figure this out. So tell me about the order of bands. Was Cadillac Tramps first?
Yeah.
And then what?
Okay, so what happened was, you know, around established 1987. In 87, I met those guys, and we, you know, we formed the Cadillac Tramps,
Yeah.
and we were all kind of newly sober and stuff. And then around 95, we kind of had a falling out after like years of touring and just putting out 4 albums and blah, blah, blah. We had a falling out and broke up for a little while. While we were broken up, I formed a band that was called Rule 62. And then that band actually got signed to Maverick Records, Madonna's record label.
Right.
And we put out an indie label record and a couple singles, and then we put out a major label record on Maverick. And then the Tramps got back together. We put out a live record on BYO Records, and then that was like, I don't know, like 2000, like 99, 2000. And then I formed Wax Apples with my wife, and the whole concept behind that was, I'm not really going to tour anymore, and my wife's an excellent singer. Why don't we let's do something together? That way we're like still doing what you know, rock and roll, what we want to do. We're just doing it together now. And that band had a good run. We were, you know, 10 years, put out 4 albums, and
Nice.
and then we broke up. We just kind of like paused it. It was like Jamie was managing it, and she was just getting tired, and she was sick of it. And we put that on hold for a while. And we're like in a now where we play like 1 or 2 shows a year, you know, kind of thing with that band. We still play.
Yeah.
And then, then when obviously the Cadillac Tramps were still going during that time too, then with Gabby getting ill, you know, the liver cancer and the kidneys shut down and all that. And it was like, so he passed away in 2016.
Yeah.
And then I kind of was like, I'm not really in Wax Apples. It's not really a real band. It's just like a hobby thing to me. So then I started just like kind of, you know, I played with Doc Patillo for a while doing, you know, like trucker country kind of Americana stuff. And that was fun. It was just everything I was doing in between. So, and I was doing that band Santos y Sinners, which was a blues band with some top name blues dudes. And we did the main stage at the Doheny Blues Festival. And it was like, I've always been really fortunate to like, whatever I dabble in musically, I can do it at a pretty high level, even though really I'm technically not that good. I mean, if someone was like, oh, can you do an arpeggio or whatever, I would be like, what the hell is that? I don't even know what one is. Please don't ask me that question again. It hurts.
I'm running that. Don't ask Brian. Okay.
Right. So, I mean, I would say, you know, that was fun. But the Santos thing, Gabby and I formed it while he was still alive, because he was like on disability. He couldn't make too much money in like regular jobs and stuff. So he was on disability, but it wasn't quite enough to cover everything. So it was just this weird position, and he just needed money. So we're like, hey, we're the guys from the Cadillac Tramps. If we make another band doing blues, it'll be cool, and we'll be able to play good venues and stuff. And then when he died, he kind of wanted us to keep it going. And we did, we tried. And like this weirdly enough, the song that Blind House just released, California Sound,
Right.
the video, Santos recorded that same song like a year and a half ago or something. But it was like, man, once Gabby passed away, that band, it was the weirdest thing, because we actually had more success after Gabby passed away than we had when he was still alive. When he was a singer, when he passed away, I became the singer. And then we wrote a couple of tunes, and like I said, we ended up playing the main stage at the Doheny Blues Festival. But the thing was, the chemistry of the band changed so much when he wasn't there, and it was just like, it was like painful to be in that band. So I had to like I couldn't do it anymore. But we had recorded that California tune, and then I haphazardly was like, oh, check out this to Frank one day, check out this tune. And he's like, holy shit, that has to be Santos y Sinner's first single, man. We got to re-record that, and that's got to be the first single. And I was like, what the fuck? What the hell, man? I thought it was a decent song, but like, and then I played it for Warren, and Warren's like, he goes, dude, that's not a Santos song. That's a fucking Blindhouse song. And it was just like, okay, so.
Wow. I don't, go ahead.
Oh, the Santos version's not bad. It's like, it's weird that that little riff that we play.
Yeah.
On the Santos version, that's actually a harmonica riff. So the song has like a whole different like vibe. It's weird, but
what's it? So okay, so that song was in a different band, but you brought it into Santos. No, it was in Santos y Sinners. Then you brought it to Blindhouse.
Yeah.
Is there a chance you can play the difference?
What's that?
Is there a chance? Well, I mean, was there a big difference guitar-wise?
Oh, well, yeah, because I didn't even do that riff at all on guitar.
Is that something you could do now to show the difference?
What's like? You mean this?
Yeah, whatever the signature riff is. Yeah.
What is it? It's like. And like that's like basically, it's weird because that's like kind of like, weirdly enough. So this is an interesting songwriting thing. There are certain instrument players that get dicked over in songwriting all the time, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is harmonica players, because it's like you don't really write songs on harmonica, I mean, you kind of can, but so Eric von Herzen, he played on a bunch of Social Distortion records.
Right.
He played on the Cadillac Tramps' first record. He's really like established, well-known blues harp player, harmonica, in that blues scene, right? He's a known dude. So anyway, he's been in like so many bands where he's kind of the leader of the band, but then the guitar player guy always ends up being the guy that writes all the songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he goes, hey man, I got this riff. And I go, look, if we write this tune, we'll co-write a song and we'll register it on BMI and all, because he had like a couple of bands where it was like, I wrote half of that song and the guy registered under his own name and, just got ripped off. So I was like, okay, look, that riff was all he had. Yeah. But it was like, and I was like, I was like, okay, it reminded me of Foghat kind of. So like, that,
yes.
I don't want you.
Yep.
So it weirdly, like, it ended up like, that was just like, it kind of had this like Southern rock feel, and it has that kind of feel more with Santos than it does with Blindhouse. Because in Blindhouse, we do something because we have Santos had the same guy in it playing Latin percussion, Mike Vasquez, but he was only playing congas and shakers in Santos. And then when we brought him into Blindhouse, I was like, unleash the fury, man. It's like timbales, congas, bongos, freaking every kind of different shaker, the little fucking cowbell things and all that shit, right? So what we do in Santos is we're trying to do a thing like, we're serious about the California sound. It's like, dude, you can't be a California person without Hispanic culture. It's impossible.
Sure.
I mean, you can't, you go down at half the streets are Hispanic names, the cities, everything. So it's like, okay, we're going to take this tune, and then like Derek would say, we're going to take that tune and we're going to lower it. You know what I mean? Like a car, you know?
Yeah.
So the Santos version has a little more pepper and spice in it or something. I don't know what it is.
That's
Someday
cool. I was wondering about that too.
Yeah. Someday I'll send you both of them and you can be like, oh yeah, you know, whatever.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. So then Blind House is like the current band.
Yeah, because when I was doing that thing, playing in all those different bands, that was kind of like a soul searching, like, what is my next thing? I don't want to play in a country band forever. I just wanted to do it for a couple times, you know, I was dabbling around and people kept going like, what are you doing, man? You're playing with this guy, you're playing with this guy, you're blues, you're this, you're that. And I go, I'm not any of those things. I'm just playing in these bands just for the fuck of it, just to learn for a few new tricks, you know? And then I went on this European trip when Gabby had passed away, like little while after Gabby passed away, and Wax Apples was doing a show, and Derek O'Brien reached out to me and he's like, what are you going to do, dude? Like, what's your next thing? He kind of scouted me a little, and he was like, what's your next thing going to be? And I was like, I don't know yet, but I got some songs. And that's the most important thing. If you're a band and you don't have good songs, then you're really not, right. There's nothing.
It's all
there.
about that.
Because really, truthfully, like the Cadillac Tramps had like oodles of like charisma. I mean, when we hit the stage, we blew major label bands off the stage, like left and right. But maybe we didn't have the pop hit structure that we needed, or whatever. You know what I mean? It was just like, if you don't have the songs, you don't have shit.
Right.
You know, you can get by with being not the most charismatic guy. I mean, it helps to have both, but really, like the Gwen Stefani's and stuff, where you have like the right kind of song and the right kind of star at the same time, it's pretty rare. But
I saw, I'm not talking trash, this is just a fact, but I saw the White Stripes play. Great songs, like across the board.
Yeah.
Not a lot of charisma on stage.
Oh yeah.
They didn't even talk to the group. They didn't even talk to the crowd. It was a little bit of a bummer. Yeah. So I got a question, and this is probably an awful question, but what makes a well-written song?
That's a good question. I mean, well written is one thing. I don't know. I mean, because like, I know what a good song is. I don't necessarily know what a well-written song is. Because like,
same thing, right?
Sort of, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, because like, okay, look, here's an example. One of the songs that I've written that's the most popular and has transcended like years and years and years of even different bands. In fact, even Blind House does a version of it and people love it, is the song Shake. Okay. It's a Cadillac Tramps song called Shake. And the weird thing is someone would say like, is it a well-written song? I don't know, because you know what's weird? That song just wrote itself. I mean, it's the weirdest tune. It's like, I was like, I was dealing with constraints, okay? Because if you're not the greatest singer, then you got to sit back and go, okay, I'm not the greatest singer. So what can I do that is good? And with me, it's rhythm. And I was a better singer technically in some ways than Gabby was. My range was a little bit greater than his. But Gabby had all that charisma and all that raw talent. So I found out early on there was a way I could write a song that would play to his strengths. So it was like, with Shake, it's like, rich man used to be loud, rich, and call him Uncle Sam, call him Uncle Old Mister, got tanks, Zach to the sky, got jet airplanes, gonna make you cry, got movie stars, smoking big cigars, making dirty deals in big black cars, you know what I mean? And it's like, you're just like firing, and you're firing, and you're firing, and so what happens is, instead of a melody hook, it's a rhythmic hook.
Sure.
And so, and then
you're talking vocally, like, right? You're talking
when
vocally.
They push the button in, feel the ground. shake. And, you know, you got the whole crowd going, shake, you know, and it's just like, it's just this groovy thing that makes you want to go like that. And I'm saying a lot of stuff, interestingly enough, and I wrote it during the first Gulf War. And it's like, if you listen to it now, it could have been about Afghanistan. It could have been about, about a lot of this. So that's another thing, is like, what makes a good song is like, if it's timely, that's great. But if it's timeless, that's even better.
Sure, the message.
Yeah. Like I'm doing I'm actually working right now on a remake of a Tramp song. I'm going to recut and re-record a Tramp song, but I'm going to do a completely different version of it, like an acoustic hip hop version of the song live.
Really?
And it's like, well, I say hip hop just because I am going to have like a rapper come in and rap like one verse, but it'll be like a groovy acoustic version of a Cadillac Tramps song with loops and stuff and beats. And but the interesting thing is, I was singing it to Jamie the other day, and she's like, "Oh my God," she goes, "That's a trip how that song right now," because it's called Lies, and it's just all about, like, it says stuff like their capitalism, their communism, their imperialism. It's like cannibalism, you know, and it's just like, they're all lies. They don't tell the truth. And it's like, it's just like one of those, like, okay. And it never says be this side or be that side. It never says that. It just says we may never know, because the clouds that cover it all up, you know, baby, baby, will we ever know? Baby, baby, I don't think so. And it's like, because their clouds are like the clouds that you made us, you know what I mean? It's just weird.
That's cool. I got to ask you a question, and this is more of a personal question. I am trying to be a singer in a band too, but I'm not very good.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to keep trying. So here's the thing, and I may be asking this question wrongly, but it resonates with me. So like my big favorite singers are Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell, even Adele. I mean, you know. And when I try to write songs and I'm thinking about the melody and thinking about how the words should be sung, I try to hit those high notes that maybe Eddie or Adele or Chris would do. But there's no way I'm doing that.
Right.
Now, I was listening to Wax Apples, and I think, forgive me, dude, there's a song, I feel like it's the first one. You're like, I'm a drug dealer. Rockstar. That was it.
Oh,
great freaking song.
Yeah.
Okay, that was great. But you sang it beautifully, and you had what sounded like African American singers backing you up there.
Yeah, that was Diana Harris. She's a blues singer. She's actually a white lady. She's white, but she like, actually, she did like she goes, I can do a thing. I'll do a thing for you. It's like the Ronettes. I'll be like all of the parts. And I go, okay, that was bad. Yeah, she's cool.
But the thing I loved about it is you wrote a badass song. You sang great on it. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, well, here's a guy who's got control of what he's singing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you got someone else who's doing the high ends. So right. I guess what my question to you is, when you're writing a song, I, again, feel embarrassed to say this, but when I'm writing a song, I'm writing it in the vein of, say, a Pearl Jam song or a Soundgarden song. And I think right around here is where a good high end for the vocals would be. What do you do there? And I'm not saying you're limited vocally.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. And we did it all the time, the Cadillac Tramps. And I'll, like, so here's a perfect example. There's actually a ton of songs. If you go back and listen to like the Tramps album, that Don't Go Tramps album, the one just the last one that's like the greatest hits or whatever. Yeah. The formula that happened with us was Gabby's range was here, and I could hit a little bit higher notes. So what we would do is he would sing that first half of the verse, and then I would come up on a high harmony with him on the second half of the verse. So the verse did go like that, but it went like that, like a harmony where you're still getting that lift of the high. Someone's in there doing a high, It's just not the lead singer. So, I mean, if you listen to Stones or whatever, I mean, Jagger's not like, there's tons of cool ways you can move around within. Do you, like in the band that you're doing right now, are there other guys singing as well?
Well, to be honest, it's just me so far, but
you're
I mean,
still forming this.
Yeah.
So then what you would need to do is you go, okay, when I'm forming this, because I'm a big like, make the blueprint, you know, write down what you think this thing should be. One of the things would be like, okay,
really?
The guitar player, the other guitar player needs to be a singer too with a high range. If your range is lower, if your range is high, then you want a lower range guy. Then you can fill up all that. You can really do a lot of stuff. Jamie was like in the Wax Apples. A lot of times she was coming in a lot of those different tracks. For me, for being my little high range thing.
That's cool. Yeah, and Rockstar, man, I was really excited about the vocal and actually how everything worked out. It was really, the whole record was pretty great. So
yeah, that's one that's weird because you know how you get habits in writing? I go, I like this thing.
Yeah.
This C to the B kind of transition. I use it a lot.
Is that a C7?
Weird, like
Is that a C7? Is your pinky on the third?
Yeah,
track?
there's C7. There's seventh chords.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
'Cause I'm only a rock star, driving around in my new car, my brand new house in the forest, pay my bills with this chorus. Yes, I will. Yeah, so it's like,
that's awesome.
It's weird.
It's so basic.
And the weird thing was, I snagged that from Two Bags like a million years ago, because he had this one song and it was like this. It went like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happened was he was playing that riff, and then somehow all of a sudden I was like, "Hey, Two Bags, bro, look at my new song I wrote." And he's like, "Dude, I was playing that 2 days ago, but I had put lyrics to it, and he didn't have lyrics to it." So he was like, "I guess we just co-wrote a song." And it was the weirdest thing. It was like, oh shit, I accidentally ripped him off. But this, I don't know why, I just love that half step thing. And like even in Shake, when they push the button, it goes a half. Like I'm really into the half steps. I don't know why. But.
Yeah, it sounds great, dude. Now, hey, so all these bands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously not counting Doc.
Right.
Are you the main writer?
Yeah.
Is that by design, or is that just how it works out?
It's weird. Like, so with the Cadillac Tramps, when I first joined the band, they had like a set. They had about, what they called a set. They had like 6 songs that they were working on. And then I brought in, it's weirdly enough, the song that I'm redoing as a hip hop tune, the Lies track.
Yeah.
That actually, I had a demo, and I had done a demo of these 2 songs. One was Lies, and this other one was called Barbed Wire. And both of those ended up on Tramps records later on down the line. So it was like when I joined the band, I brought a couple songs with me. I had this other song we called Jap Movie.
Yep.
And that movie's actually called, that one song's on the Don't Go album, re-recorded as Monster Zero. We changed the name to Monster Zero. We were talked into being a little more PC because Jap Movie's not cool, you know, like we called it Monster Zero. But though, you know, I came into the band with songs, and I at first was not the main songwriter. Those guys were. They had a set when I got there, and then I go, oh, I got this tune, I got that tune, and then pretty soon it was one of those weird kind of things where Johnny, much better guitar player than me. Johnny, like, I can't even to this day finger pick. I can't, even when, okay, like, so if I was going to learn a song, I'd be like trying to learn this tune, and I'd be like, God damn, it just doesn't, I can't pick up stuff by ear. So Johnny could be like playing like a Zeppelin riff or a ZZ Top thing, and he's actually playing it correctly, where, like, you know how Billy Gibbons puts like fingers in and he's plucking, and he's like doing stuff, like real stuff, and I don't know how to do it, and so I'm faking stuff sometimes, and it's like, oh, he can play the ZZ Top song, yeah, but I really can't, but whatever. Johnny was better guitar player, so I ended up thinking like, well, my niche is just going to be songwriting. When I was a kid, my friends would come over and go, hey, play football or do this or do that, and I was always writing lyrics and writing songs. And it was more about having something to say than like having like a craft. It was more like trying to articulate vibes more than even like the song Shake as a perfect example. I was trying to, with the Cadillac Tramps we were punk rock. We were a punk rock band, kind of, but we had this bluesy groove, rock and roll, swampy thing, because we all loved Creedence Clearwater Revival, and we all loved the Germs and Black Flag and all that. And it was like, how do we, like, it wasn't like we went, how do we put this together? It was just like, we really liked that shit. So we figured ourselves kind of like the swampy, bluesy street punk guys, And so with a song like Shake, the weird thing was, why would I go push the button in, feel the ground shake? And we were like, because I don't know, maybe because Elvis or whoever else said shaking all over, and it was like, there was like iconic themes that I was trying to strike. Like I wanted to feel like Hoodoo Guru, the song Hoodoo Guru. I wanted to feel like a punk rock Creedence Clearwater song. And that's kind of what I got. It's like, it's weird. I don't know how or what. And that one's weird because that's a groove too. And it's also a fast delivery. And I did a chord in there that I don't even know. You're a guitar teacher, so you tell me what this chord is. So it's E, and then I would do this. Where I'm doing, can you see what I'm doing? I'm like, I'm on the G, but I'm also like doing what would this be?
A sharp? A sharp 5? That's an A sharp 5.
A flat? A flat or A sharp?
A sharp. It's an A sharp.
So what's this chord?
That's like a G suspended, I think.
Yeah,
it's in a G though.
So I'd go.
Sure.
And the only reason I was even doing it was because I would see these blues dudes, and they probably weren't playing that chord. They were probably playing like a Jimi Hendrix chord or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, and it just had this weird sound to me. It was dissonant because you're playing two different chords at once or whatever, And whenever someone would try to learn the song, they would always play this chord, but I'm like, no, it's this chord.
Yeah. So wait, hold on. So your fingers, so your fingers, your middle finger's covering what? E string third? Yeah. And your third finger's doing what?
Down here. I'm basically skipping the A string.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So I don't even know what fucking chord that is, but
I don't either. I don't know.
It's a weird chord that sounds weird, and
it totally works.
But then the other thing was Gabby, for the Gabby delivery, it would be like, voodoo doctor living in the jungles, mixing up with suitors, he never bungle, trying to raise a sexy jungle daughter with learn about the books from the books that it bought her. And then they had that, you get you like this. And then our little turnaround was,
yeah.
And that's when Gabby would be like going, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
All this weird voodoo crap. But I don't know, Creedence Clearwater Punk song. You know what I mean? That's what I was trying for. So,
dude, every one of their songs are great.
yeah.
For
Oh
Creedence.
yeah, hell yeah, dude. I mean, that guy John Fogerty's like,
My God,
off the charts.
So you, I don't know if you remember, you probably do. When we were on the phone, you talked about kind of listening to basically the hits, and you kind of just wrote out, okay, verse, chorus. You kind of wrote it out. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So when I was going to do the Rule 62 record, and I was working on all the songs for that, I think like maybe the fact that it was a major label, and I was like, okay, like these songs are actually going to maybe get radio play, and we did get radio play with our song Drown, and it was like,
oh cool.
So I thought, I don't really know how to arrange a song. You know what I mean? All these years, I mean, with the band, with the Tramps, it was like we just did it by feel, like, oh, that feels like it should go 4 times, and that feels like it, and turns out that's actually pretty valid. I mean, you kind of either feel it or you don't.
Right.
But then I would go, okay, well, let's hear what, like, so I would, so I got a pad of paper out. I remember one day, it was funny because I was waiting in the dentist's office, and I'm like in the dentist office, and they were playing like the hits, like just one of those kind of, it wasn't K-Rock, but it was like whatever, 97, 98.7, but back then, whatever that was.
Sure.
And I would like be writing, I go like an intro, it goes 4 bars, I counted it out like math. And then I would be like bridge, and then blah, 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 blah. And then also what I started doing too a little bit was timing them and going like, oh, so at 30 seconds, they're already hitting this. And then at 1 minute, they're hitting this. And at 2, so I was going, I wanted to see basically if I could figure out by math, that there was some kind of formula. And what I found out from doing that was, yes, there is, but then there's always these anomalies. Like every once in a while you'll come across a song and it's like, that doesn't hit any of those marks, and it's a huge hit,
Yeah.
Like, or like a song like Nirvana, when Smells Like Teen Spirit or whatever came out, and that song, you're like, you really can't understand one word, because like people would be like, I don't understand what you're saying, it's about the lyric, and you want to understand the lyrics, and it's like, okay, well, that blew that out of the water, because you can't understand a damn word he's saying.
Nope.
In that song.
Nope.
So I mean, you figure it out maybe after 20 times or something, but I never actually could figure it all out.
So what do you think it was? What do you think made that pop, I guess?
That was like, okay, that was a combo of a couple things, right? It was the right style at the right time and the right producer. I mean, like that freaking record, when you listen to that record, it sounds so good. I mean,
Butch Vig, right?
Yeah, Butch Vig. And it sounds to me, I mean, I saw live shit of Nirvana a lot. They were not that great live. I mean, you can't deny that freaking what's his butt is a great drummer.
Grohl.
Dave Grohl. Awesome drummer. You cannot deny he's not a talented guy. But I mean, Kurt Cobain wasn't the cleanest. He was pretty sloppy, It was kind of like Sublime. Like if you ever saw Sublime in the day live, they didn't sound that good.
Yeah.
They sound so much like Sublime with Rome sounds way better than Sublime ever sounded.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, you could catch Bradley on a good day and he would pump out a couple of parts that were good, but then his pedal would come unplugged, or his he just had this poor fuck up kind of quality that was actually people liked about him. Yeah. But he, they never sounded clean or really like sharp and good. They were always fucking drunk and trashed, and they sounded like it.
That part sucks, dude. That part sucks a lot. So many drugs and alcohol take out these big, these great musicians.
Yeah.
All right, man. Tell me about the process for your songwriting. Okay. From and however you want, right? Either you have a riff in mind and you want to use that later with maybe some lyrics you find out, or you have lyrics first and then you create music with it?
Yeah, well, what it's evolved into, because what it used to be was I can generate like riffs and pieces forever. Like I'll just pick up the guitar and just be like, let's see, okay, let's see, I feel like this today. Or just whatever, and I'll just be like, okay, no. Now that would be kind of cool. That would be a good intro, yeah. Or so, and I'll just be messing around, or I'll think I got to try something different. So I'm going to go up a little bit higher on the neck. I'm going to do something delicate, and I'll just be messing around, and then I'll find something, and I'll go, that's a cool little thing, and and I'm talking like in 5 minutes, I'll whip something out, and then it used to be cassette players, but now it's my messages thing on my iPhone, and I got like, hundreds of pieces. But then what happens is every once in a while I will, I just fill those up and I forget about them, and I literally completely just blow them off.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, did you see the Baby It's Gonna Be All Right that Jamie and I did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so that song, interestingly enough, I wrote it that morning that we recorded it.
Yeah.
Well, but the real story is I didn't write it that morning. I finished it that morning.
Okay.
Because what happened was that tune was sitting from who knows where. I don't even freaking know how long ago, but it was sitting in. I'm gonna do this as, I don't know if you can see it.
Can't see it at all.
No, that doesn't work.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, it just looks like a bright white thing. But anyway, here it's just songs. You scroll through my recorder, and it's like there's just a million ideas. So every once in a while, I have a sneeze coming on. COVID-19. No, don't say that. But so I would scroll through, right?
Yeah.
And every once in a while when I'm driving around just for work or for whatever I'm doing, I have my phone running through my stereo, and I'll put on my
Really?
I'll put on my recorder to play it, and I'll just scroll through, and I'll be like, I wonder what this one sounds like. I wonder what this one sounds like. So I just kind of listen, because in the old days what would happen was I would put those cassette tapes in my cassette deck, and I would listen to them. So I listened back to them, and every once in a while one pops out, and then when one pops out, you go you hit a little button and add to playlist. So I'll throw it in the playlist, and the playlist is called Finish These. I don't always get to that playlist, but the thing is like every once in a while one of those will just pop out at me and go like, that idea right there, I gotta finish that. And then so so what happened that morning of Baby It's Gonna Be All Right was I woke up, and it was like, everybody's freaked out about the COVID, and everybody's scared.
Yeah.
And that song just came to me. It came because what the harder part is to not just blurt out a bunch of lyrics. It's to blurt out lyrics that actually mean something.
Sure.
It fit with the rhythm of the song. Fit with the the amount of syllables and everything that you have to cram into so you have a meter. So I'm out there, and I'm playing it, and those chords came to me.
Okay.
But the thing was they weren't brand new. They had come to me another time. They were stored in here, and it wasn't that song. It was like I was just because when I do it, my process is I'll figure out I'll figure out something, and I'll be like, I'm sitting here with Chris on Zoom.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'll just be like, I'm like, I don't know what the riff is going to be, but I'm always going to have some kind of idea for what the vocal's going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't have necessarily the words. Like Paul McCartney had scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his famous one where it was like yesterday was scrambled eggs, and it's like, okay, well, you'll figure it out what you want to say.
Yeah.
Because for me, like at this point, I don't really want to just put out nonsense. It doesn't there's no point. If I'm going to write a song, if I'm going to actually finish a song, then there's got to be some kind of point to it. Like, what am I really trying to say here?
Right.
And the last 2 songs I happened to write was Baby, It's Gonna Be All Right and Dark No More. You can't say it's We Ain't Scared of the Dark No More. Right. And those 2 songs got a point in this world we're living in right now, you know, and they're not super literal to what it is. They kind of are, but they kind of aren't.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think sometimes you can be too literal, because like if you listen to a song and it's too literal, and then you listen to it 10 years later and you're like, that song
right, it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think you just wrote my theme music.
There you go, Chris. Or like sometimes there's like when I started playing with Doc, it opened me up to a lot of so my niece, my crazy cowboy niece Tara, she's like this. She's a really good looking girl. But she is like a freaking rodeo rider. Yeah. Like for real. And she's kind of raw. She's rough around. She's a cowboy girl, a cowgirl or whatever. And she told me the one day, she goes, that fucking bitch the other day, she tried to jump me in the bathroom and I kicked her fucking ass and her friend's ass, right? It was like, and she was like wearing like her nice dress and like she was at some cowboy bar and shit, you know, and the chick grabbed her by the hair and tried to like get in some punches. She goes, oh shit. She got in a couple punches, but I fucked her up, man. If I'd have been wearing my cowboy boots, I would have beat her up even worse. So I was like, I was sitting there and I go, she picked the wrong day she picked the wrong shoes for a bar fight tonight. She was thinking that those heels look just right. I can't even remember the chord pattern now. But the funny thing was, I was like, she picked the wrong shoes for a bar fight tonight, you know, and it's like, and it's something about she knows she wished she wore Vibram soles. She picked the wrong shoes for a bar fight tonight. So sometimes my songs will be like based on something true, and then the structure on that one is like something you've heard before, kind of like you go, I've heard that country riff before, because you know there's like, if you're going to stake into the old school country, there's not so much you can do, but you can do a lot because you can say a story, and the story is the point, you know. So if I heard you correctly, you play guitar into your phone a lot. You save a bunch. Yes. You've got a playlist. Yep. And so basically that just hangs out in your playlist until you hear something, and then there's a spark. That sounds good. I like this message. Right. Like the light bulb was seeking Bell or whatever, or was Bell the light bulb guy, or the telephone was seeking Bell. I don't know. But what happens with me is that they're all in there. So like, and I can write a million little riffy tune things. Yeah. And like, you know, when I think I got one that's kind of cool, then I like kind of show someone else or whatever, but what I used to do a lot was I would say, like I would give them to Two Bags, and I would be like, hey, Two Bags, you listen to these. When you hear one that you think is cool, then I'll finish that one. Because the thing is, it's hard to finish them, and you don't want to waste a bunch of time. See, artists, musicians, filmmakers, any kind of creative out there, there's a tendency and there's a concern that you can become too precious about your own shit. And so what happens is, like if people are like, man, Coakley's written 150 songs on albums and stuff, which is probably true. But the thing is I've probably written 500 songs that
Sure.
were not on albums that I finished, worked really hard on, and then they just didn't, for some reason, pan out. And sometimes that could just be because your band isn't up to the snuff of pulling it off.
Right.
You know, with the sum of the parts. Like, you know, I could write a song right now that's like an opera piece, but who's gonna fucking sing it? Not me.
Right.
So it's twofold. If you're thinking about being a musician and playing those songs, then you really want to write songs that work for your style. You know, you got to figure out what your style is. A guy just sent me a tape the other day, and his dad was like, "Hey, my son's a musician. Can you listen to their stuff and tell me what you think or whatever?" So I got it, and the first song was the first song sounded like Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, sounds like Rage Against the Machine, but it's, you know, it's pretty cool. Second song sounded like Dead Kennedys. And I mean, it was like a complete flip of the switch to like that twangy, you know, East Bay Ray sounding, you know, and I'm like, okay, this already sounds like two different bands right here. Like the same singer though. It was weird. Like the singer's voice had the same distinct sound. But I'm like, that already bugs me. I'm not saying there's anything, it could work. People do it. Yeah. But it's like, I kind of tend to go like, pick a lane, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Know what your style is. Like for me, I kind of like go, okay, I have limitations as a singer. I have limitations as a guitar player. I am completely well aware with them of that, what they are. And I'm totally okay with it. I have natural talent. It goes to about here. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, and I mean, but if you take my natural talent and you go, now I'm playing with Frank Meyer. I'm playing with Derek O'Brien. I'm playing with Mike Vasquez, and everybody I just named is a really good singer. And some of those guys have some really high ranges. And so it's like Blind House all of a sudden is like this vocal group that I could never do by myself. I could never do that. But with those guys with me, all of a sudden now you got like a force multiplier, and then you got Warren on the bass just holding down the fort on the low end, man. He's just got so much soul.
Yeah.
So
I had the greatest question.
It's weird. Like Frank can write. Frank's one of those kind of guys that could go, I'm going to write like a Cheap Trick song, and I'm going to write like this kind of song, and I'm going to write. And I can't do that, and never have been able to. You know, you might hear one of my tunes and you might go, that vaguely reminds me of something, but I can't figure out what it is. The reason is because I couldn't be like anybody else if I tried. There's just like only thing that comes out of me is my style.
So what is your style? Is it rhythm? Is it the rhythm like you said?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. It's just my style is what comes out of me. But I mean, it can change. There's like, but it is based in rhythm. I would say that one of my, and just like as a guitar player, if I try to tell people, okay, this hand is important, this hand is magic.
Sure.
This hand. If you can't strum and flick and do that and make that shit, you know, like how many different ways, like, okay, so, you know, you're holding an E and you're going, or just whatever, you know what I mean? Or it's like, you know, you have so much room, but it's all in. If you don't have a good solid flick over here, then you got nothing over, you know, because you can you could have 3 chords and do so much with this other, the pick hand. I think that people kind of miss that point sometimes when they're learning. I mean, you're a teacher, so I don't know what you teach. Maybe you're telling them that too, but.
To a degree, yeah. Let me ask you a question. That actually brought up a couple of things. So, do you practice? Do you warm up?
Not as much as I should. I could
When did
actually
that-
go. I actually can go for like 3 weeks sometimes without even looking at a guitar.
Okay. Now, did that stop, or were you never really a big warm up guy or practice
I
guy?
used to try. It's weird. I used to try, and I used to do scales, and I could just they're so tedious to me. I just don't. It doesn't have any. Like I don't get any joy out of it. And I know you're not supposed to always enjoy everything, but it's like
Right.
I would go through like a stage where okay, here's a perfect example.
Okay.
Joe Wood taught me something. Joe Wood from TSL.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
like, so it's like, I've never been, I can't solo past that first position of the pentatonic scale. Like,
Okay.
I mean, so I'll go like,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I could do some weird stuff, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like Frank will do a riff and I'll be like, dang, I've heard that like riff. I've heard that. Like we have a song and it's like this Latin groove tune and he plays some stuff and it's like Santana. And it's like, you want it to be like Santana and he fucking pulls it off and it sounds like Santana. And you're like, yeah, I would never be able to do that. I couldn't even mock Santana because I don't know what he's playing in the first place. I didn't even know where to be on the neck or anything. So like, I know like that part.
Yeah.
And so what I focus on actually is, okay, so if I'm super limited and that's the only scale I know, basically, I know how to turn it around and do it a bunch of different ways and use it rhythmically. But it's also, I try to make sure that my tone of my amplifier and my guitar are really good. So like basically the guitar, I could be very simplistic, but it's going to sound really good. And then I also like to be very solid, you know, like I like to make sure like when I'm hitting a note or whatever, I'm playing that note and it's just, so for me, like the practices come in with like trying to be real solid. I don't know if that descriptive terminology is going to work so good for teaching, but because you ever notice like when someone picks up a guitar and like two people will play the same rig.
Sure.
And one guy will pick it up and it'll be like, no. And it's like, oh, it sounds kind of sloppy, punky kind of thing. And then another guy picks it up and it's like, whoa, that dude.
Yeah.
He didn't adjust anything. And you're like, what the hell happened? And he's not playing anything. So it's like, it's all in your fingertips.
Yep.
And I don't understand that. Like Johnny has it, 2 bags from the Cadillac Tramps. He has it in this way of like, when he plays these, it sounds gritty and cool as shit. I don't even know how to, you know what I mean? There's no other way to say it, but he's playing and he really works at it and he practices and he does stuff and you know, he plays at a high level. Being in Social Distortion is it's a big deal.
Turns out it's kind of big.
They're kind of big deal, so.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. If you have one guy play a song and you have another guy who has some technique play a song, they're going to sound completely different.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same song.
Rig, same song, same rig, everything, same guitar, and you're like, what? That just sounds so much different.
So tell me about your setup. Okay, actually I got 2 questions. So let me write that down. So okay, I heard some pretty killer solos on the Cadillac's songs.
Mm-hmm.
Who's playing those? Probably.
Well, it depends on what song. We both soloed depending on song. It was pretty much split down the middle. Towards the end, when what happened too was at the end when I started writing way more songs, then I would go ahead, Johnny, you do the solo on that, because he was starting. You know, there was tension. Like when everybody wants to be the songwriter or John.
Sure.
And the thing with me was I would just like tear through songs. Like I'd go, I'd bring a song in to practice. Here's a good band environment thing is you bring a song into practice and you just start playing the rhythm of it. And if your drummer just jumps in and starts playing something, and you're like, okay, you're like, okay, you know. But when you bring a song into practice and it's like, here's how the song goes, guys, and everybody's kind of like going, okay, and they're trying to, it's like really like not coming together. That's a stressor in a band, because like the band, it's almost like eating fucking Cheetos or something. Like you want to eat the Cheetos because they're so salty and they're so good.
Right.
Like, you know, the one that's more difficult, the vegetables, you don't want to eat. You'd rather eat the fast food that's really easy to pick up. So one of the things for me is my songs are always real rhythmic and they're always catchy, but they're pretty simple. So it's like a simple song is way easier to learn than a complicated song. And sometimes what Two Bags would do is he would write this really complicated song, and he would be like just focused in on it. And I'm bringing him up a lot just because we had it's a two ways to look at it kind of approach. There's no wrong way, because he wrote some bitchin' songs, but it would be like that. He would really get one song, zone in on it, craft it and craft it and craft it, so that by the time he brings it into the band, if everyone's like, I don't really want to eat broccoli right now, I'd rather eat Cheetos, then you have feelings hurt and stuff like that. So with me, it was more like, I write 100 songs. I can write 100 songs a week, ideas. I'll bring the idea into practice, like the song Cadillac Hearse. Mm-hmm. There's that riff. It's like bump, 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 bump. I did that on my Marshall, and it was like we were playing that song in 5 minutes. Like everybody was like, "What the fuck is that? We gotta play that tune." You know, it was like,
it's cool.
You know, and it's just like if you write catchy tunes like that, but is that song better than a song that Johnny did that was complicated? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just like they're just, if you can win sometimes the song battle by just having catchier, easier tunes. Because that's the other thing is like you can write a masterpiece for the studio, and then when you play it live, it's like it brings everything down. When a Tramp show is a high energy show. So like he had that song, it's called Carry My Soul, and it's on the album. You'd have to go onto YouTube to hear it.
Okay.
It's on the album Tombstone Radio.
Okay.
Carry My Soul. He wrote the music and I wrote the words and the melody. Now that one was really weird because it's a 3/4 time. It's like a waltz.
Yeah.
And the reason it's a waltz is our drummer was like, hey, we should do that in 3/4. And we were like, what is that? You know what I mean? And it was just like, okay. But it weirdly enough, that song's bitchin'. I love it. And if you should listen to that one and listen to the solo that Two Bags does on it.
Okay.
I mean, it is off the hook insane. So good.
Okay.
And then you know, let's see, he wrote a bunch of tunes, but the problem was too, he was such a perfectionist that if Gabby were to like not be able to quite get, like we did this one album that was called it's called Cadillac Hearse, the album.
Give me a minute, dude. Give me a minute. All right. You're killing me, Smalls. Hey, you're killing me, bro. I understand. You don't have to yell though. All right. I'm sorry. All right. So your son's 21, huh?
Right.
Okay, so go back to that. So Two Bags, Carry My Soul.
Oh, he wrote a couple tunes that were like that were really awesome tunes, but he never felt that we were pulling them off. So like what happened was when we broke up, Dr. Dream took a bunch of outtakes that we had done of songs that didn't make it on records. And then they were like, listen, if you guys finish these songs, we'll consider all of your albums like paid up so that any sales from that point on, you guys will be recouped. And we were like, oh, okay, whatever. Never saw a dime from that anyway, but
sure.
But it was like, so like there was this Green album that came out. It was called Cadillac Hearse or something. The record was called Cadillac Hearse. And it had like, it was kind of like a greatest hits, but it had like these 5 or 6 songs on there. It had this one song called Sunshine. It had the only 2 really good songs on that record there was a song called Tombstone Shuffle, and there was a song called oh shit, what was that song called? Shoot, now I'm drawing a blank. Untouchable.
Okay.
And Two Bags wrote both of those tunes, and they were freaking awesome. But we never like he was always bugged because like there's something wrong, you know, there was like a little thing here or there wrong. So like right when we were Untouchable was supposed to be on the It's All Right album, which would have been our 3rd record.
Yeah.
But it got scrapped because it just I think both those tunes were supposed to be on that record. He just was like, Gabby's not pulling off the singing, or Spanky's not getting the drumming right, or whatever. So we scrapped them, and whatever, you know, they were great. They're great tunes though. That record is kind of a pile of crap because it's like, let's take all the songs that you decided weren't good enough to go on records and make a record.
Yeah.
But there are actually people that still like that record. So I mean,
B-sides could be fun.
yeah.
I mean, would you call those B-sides? I would.
I would call them extreme B-sides.
I
mean, there's a song on there called Hang My Hopes. And it's like, I've gone back to that song a bunch of times to try to finish it right, because it's got this really cool, it's almost like, it was almost going to be like a Neil Young song. I mean, it was like,
in Tramps?
Yeah, for the Tramps, but it was almost like in the Neil Young kind of a vibe. And it was almost going to be like a Heart of Gold or something, like one of those really good classic rock songs like that. But we could never arrange it right. And it had these 3 parts and they just didn't seem right. And the producer, when we were making the album, It's All Right, he was just like, because this song, man, he's like, this song just doesn't know what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And then we all went, you know what, you're right. And we scrapped it. But it's on that 4th album.
Wow. How many of those types of songs do you think you have? Like songs that are done, you thought were pretty good because you brought it to the table, right?
Yeah.
That someone eventually said scrapped it.
A lot. Like probably, you know, hundreds. I mean, the thing is we would try to that was where Johnny too was really strong. Like, even though he wasn't maybe writing as many songs, but his arranging was really good. And we would really like try to think about how to work, you know, because music theory or whatever, they call it theory. They don't call it music fact. You know what I mean? It's like,
sure.
So, and the theory is that this chord should work with this and this transition should work with that. But like, sometimes they just don't. And
it's whatever works.
The thing about that song was it was like a timing thing too, because the song would pick up, and then it's just like, if you ever get a chance to hear it, it's probably on YouTube.
I'll check it out. I'm gonna check it out.
Hang My Hopes.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I don't know. I was trying to make a statement, but it just the chorus is I really love the chorus. I think the chorus is really catchy, but
yeah. You ever find yourself rewriting yourself or like copying your own stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah, like you can revisit something, you know, nowadays in this world of remixes and stuff, because you can actually like I'm going to do with that song Lies. The song Lies, it was on the first Cadillac Tramps record. When you hear the new version that's coming out, there's elements about them that are the same. There's elements that are going to be so different that it's like almost a different song.
Yeah.
It's still the same chord progression, except the original chord progression was like, let's see, what's your guitar teacher? What is this? This is B?
That's a B, yeah.
So the first version was.
Okay. Yeah.
The new version is this. So it's the same progression, but I dropped it from like whatever that first one key, that other one is, and then to a whatever the new key is, A. I think it's an A now.
Yeah.
But
So
I
why
mean,
did you change it? What made you decide to change it?
because I didn't even know I was going to be remaking lives. First of all, that's the weird thing. I was playing this riff, and it was a super simple one note riff, and it was like dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun, and I'm like, that's basically that same chord progression, but I was just doing it as a single thing, and I was like, this could be lives, and then when I started singing it, more like, baby, baby, will we ever really know? Like more like a crooner kind of would sing it. And then I was like, I could just do, I have no idea why. I have no idea. You know what's funny is like, why would a guy, here's a funny thing. Why would a guy who can write tons of songs even go back to an old song? I don't know. It's something was calling me about it that I needed to do it. So
Unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. So, okay, I got a question for you. How do you pick the right guys
for a band?
Yeah.
So, you know what? I don't know. I don't know because if I say okay, so Blind House, using that as an example with the Cadillac Tramps, it was like, hey, we're 24 years old. I was 24. Gabby, I think, and Johnny were like 22. Okay. And you know what I mean? We were just young, and we just kind of were brand new sober, and we met at this sober dance, and we have a sober dance, and then next thing you know, we're in this band, and we're buying a van and driving around the whole country. You know what I mean? It was like weird. Like that was like the most uncontrived band you would ever. It just happened. It was fate. So, but with Blind House, it was like, okay, I got like 30 something years of credibility in the music scene. One of the writer for the LA Times, Mike Bohm, he's passed away now, but he used to say, Brian Coakley has impeccable alt rock credentials. Like I have impeccable credentials as far as like, okay, at least I have impeccable credentials in something alternative. So, but I have this 30 years of cred, and I'm not just going to play with anybody. I'm not just going to like just fucking some band that's like, you don't want to, not like beneath me, but it's just like, hey man, whoever I play with, they better meet me eye to eye with what they want to. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really big on making a plan. Like the plan, like, you know, they say, do the footwork, let the results up to God.
Yep.
Or your higher power, or whatever. Well, the universe will make the band. You make the plan. Sometimes the plan says one thing and it ends up something else, but you still make the plan. But then you don't hold too rigidly to it. So what I would say is like, okay, you go, hey, what I did with that was like, I put, I knew Derek wanted to play drums. Derek O'Brien. I'm like, Derek O'Brien was in Social Distortion. He played on Mommy's Little Monster. He's like punk rock credibility for days, way beyond past mine. And but then I was like, is he good though? So then I call a couple people. Two Bags, is he good?
Yeah.
Soto, is he good? Like some heavy hitters that played with him. They're like, oh, like, yes, he's amazing. so they're like, here's his upside, here's his downside. He's amazing, blah, blah, blah. Go for it. You're going to rock. So I played, then I actually had to go and play with him in the studio. Right. So I went and met him at his studio, played a few tracks, just like showed him a few of my songs. He instantly started playing some parts. There was like one song where I was like, I was thinking a little bit like this. And he's like, oh, okay. Switched up, no problem. So it was like, so I think you have to figure out, first of all, like what you are. And then you got to figure out, okay, the way Frank ended up in the band was totally weird. He's the singer of the Streetwalking Cheetahs. I like his band. I go see his band. I didn't even really know him that well, but I liked his band and I would go see his band. So we hung out and talked a couple times after he played. And then I forget what happened, or I was hitting him up on Messenger or something, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a bass player. Do you know anybody? That's what it was.
Simple
It's
as
like,
that.
I was kind of thinking, I'm looking for a bass player. Do you know anybody? He goes, I can play bass really good, and I'm looking for something in Long Beach. I want to be in a Long Beach band. So consider me. And I was like, really? Okay. So then he came over and I showed him the tunes. I sent him some songs and I
Yeah.
showed him the tunes. And then he came over with a bass. And then I was like, are you sure you're going to be able to play bass, dude? Because you're like a total shredding guitar player. And
Yeah.
he goes, I know, man. He goes, our styles would work really good together. And then I was like, well, it could be a 2-guitar band. That's fine with me. The other thing was, from Santos, I knew I wanted Mike, the conga player. I wanted the Latin percussion, Mike Vasquez.
Sure.
And he was in this band called Double O Soul, who used to just pack clubs, like in the freaking, like after the Tramps were kind of waning down. We were still playing shows though, but Double O Soul was just packing. They were doing like a 2-set a night dance extravaganza, and he was the drummer for that band.
Yeah.
And so he's, and I knew, so I, but that's the kind of guy you just want in your band, because he's a good singer. He writes good songs.
Yeah.
So the thing that's going to be the problem in Blind House is that we have so many talented dudes, and there's
Right.
it's like, man, it's more, how do you manage egos? And it's not like everybody's all ego tripped out, but it's just like, you know, you got some elder gentlemen like in our 50 somethings, and it's like, you know, you just don't want to play any shitty dive club. You just don't want
Right.
to play you have to manage your morale. But
Yeah.
for you, what I would say is you write down what you want, because what I wrote down was, I want a band. Two Bags said it to me one day. He goes, Coakley, what you should do is you should do a groovy rock band like that band you used to do called Blue Movie. And the weird thing was, so Blue Movie was a band that was at the same time as the Tramps. The original bass player and the original drummer of the Tramps, who had gotten kicked out of the Tramps.
Yeah.
They come to me and they go, hey, let's start a band called, I want to call it Blue Movie. Let's start a band. You write the songs, you sing, I'll play drums. It was Randy Freeman, who's now in a band called Dissension. And It was our original drummer, Chris Lagerborg, who's now dead. And so we started this band, and it was like a side project from the Tramps, because we had a new drummer and a new bass player in the Tramps, and we were doing our thing. And then when that band broke up, Shake was one of our songs.
Okay.
Two Bags,
from Blue Movie.
From Blue Movie. And Two Bags was like, dude, Shake is now a Tramp song. So that, and we were like, I was like, okay, whatever. But Two Bags, when he knew I was like trying to figure out what to do, come 30 years later, he goes, why don't you start another, like, just a groovy power trio like Blue Movie?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So I pulled out some Blue Movie tracks that we had recorded, like just 4-track recordings, really crummy recordings, but you could still hear everything, and they sound pretty good. And so then that was my blueprint for my new band. So like, I have a blueprint now.
Yeah.
I want to base it off of this set of Blue Movie. So then when the guys were like, what are we going to, you know, what's this new band going to sound like? I sent them the Blue Movie tracks. And then we learned a few of those Blue Movie tracks. And then they heard California, and they're like, oh, California Sound's got to be in Blind House now. And then, then the other thing that was an unintended consequence, or unintended benefit really, was Frank Meyer being a super rad songwriter. And so then he would go, hey, here's my Dropbox. Here's 12 songs that I just happen to have in there that I completely fleshed out, completely every part and everything. And he goes, if you hear anything in there, just, you know, I won't get butthurt, but if you think any of these will work, we can do them. I'm like, that one. Like, so we have like an instant set, you know.
Wow.
But the whole thing was, it really, I was thinking I was going to call it Barbed Wire.
Okay.
I was thinking I was going to call my new band Barbed Wire. And Frank hears that today and to this day, and he's like, "Oh God, that's a terrible name. I'm not that name." But the thing was, is I really didn't know what to name it, but I knew like one of the things that was a bummer about my career in the past is when I went from the Cadillac Tramps and stepped all the way in and doing Rule 62 full time.
Yeah.
It was a departure style wise. So if you ever hear any of those tunes, that's you'll go like, oh shit, this is a whole different kind of animal.
Yeah.
It's still alternative, it's still punky, but it's a lot more pop. And it's so oops, I almost knocked my guitar off. So, but I didn't stay stylistically. Had I started another band that was really like the Cadillac Tramps, I probably would have had more success. I might not have got a major label record deal, but I would have been able to retain a bunch of my fan base from the Tramps.
Yeah.
And so, because there was like a splintering, and so I lost some of those. So what happens with Blind House, one of the things I wanted to be sure to do is actually take the momentum from the Cadillac Tramps movie, take the momentum and the love for the Tramps, and transition it into stylistically a band that could work for those people. So I'm thinking about my fans. I'm thinking about what style of music to play. And so I was thinking, oh, I'll name it Barbed Wire. But what happened was we were in England and this tour of this medieval town, and this guy goes, "What do you think this is?" And there was a shed, there was this big, like not a castle, but a big like storage place. And it was made out of stone, really old medieval times. And he goes, "This is where they stored your taxes, because you paid your taxes in like wheat or cows, or you know what I mean? You know, they would kind of like take a cut off of your crops or whatever." And there was this big like barn. And then off to the side of that barn, there was like this room. And it was like a 6x6 with no window, just this big heavy door. And you open it up and there's just like a cot, like a bunk in there.
Yeah.
He goes, "What do you think this is?" And I go, "The drunk tank." And he goes, "Yes." And it was like, so what they called it was the Blind House. So when they would go, you would get busted by the village constable or whatever for acting up when you were drunk, and then they'd throw you in that thing. And when you got out the next day, since there was no windows, they called it the Blind House. You'd just be like, sleeping in the cold in the fucking rock total bunk, like, you know, just whatever. So then Jamie goes, "That's the name of your band." And it was like, yeah, because it means something for me. Like half of, you know, my band drink, like I'm the only sober guy in my band. So it's like, for me, it means where I come from. And for those guys, it means maybe where they're going to end up. I don't know.
So with Rule 62, where do I find that music? Is that on YouTube?
That is on, it's on iTunes. It's on Amazon. It's on anywhere where you can download and buy music.
Okay.
The record's just called Rule 62. It's it's got a picture of a cow on the front surrounded by flowers.
So my sponsor has Rule 62 on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
In a happy face.
Yep.
That's got nothing to do with you, does it?
No, but I took it from it's like in the Rule 62 comes from the 12 and 12, the AA 12 and 12. Yeah. And it's a story about, it's in I believe it's the 4th tradition about AA groups being autonomous.
Yeah.
But basically it's a really good story if you ever get to read. Most people never read the traditions, actually, right? So, but I read them, and I found that rule to be the rule actually means don't take yourself too damn seriously.
Yeah.
So, but I figured, okay, I'm a sober dude. If I name my band something like that, then I will be less likely to fuck up down the line, because it'll be like a reminder. Like, how could a guy in a band that's called, like, you know, Rule 62, that's from the AA book, maps. It just wouldn't make sense, you know.
All right. Okay. I get you. Let's see. I have some weird questions for you, and I have my answers that I would give my students.
Okay.
But I want to ask you how you would do this. Bar none, the hardest chord for any guitar player to play is the F chord.
Okay.
Just I don't know why. So I always tell them, base it off. I don't know if you can see this, but
Yeah.
base it off the E chord, and then just bring it up and place your finger down on the first fret.
Right.
And the trick I tell them is put your thumb right in front of your middle finger. That way you're pushing down and pulling back, and hopefully you get a nice F sound.
Yeah.
Do you remember struggling with the F chord? And if you do, how did you get past it?
I don't, you know what's weird is weirdly enough, I started with bar chords.
Did you really?
Well, you know my brother Chris, right?
Yeah, we played together.
Okay. So Chris actually would be around the house playing guitar like when we were growing up.
Right.
And I wasn't supposed to touch his guitar.
Yeah.
So much for that as soon as he'd leave the house. But what I would notice with Chris was like, so yeah, I'm kind of doing that same thing. My thumb's in front
of the index. Yeah.
But I mean all that shit's out the window though when you're playing rock and roll and you got a strap and you're like way down like that.
True.
I had this thing going for a long time where people would trip on me because my hand would be like that. Like,
yeah.
Not even my palm wouldn't even be back there. I don't know how I was getting power on it. But I mean, you know how like this is the proper way, right? Like put your hand out like more like this or something.
Yep. That's right.
I'll tell you what I do mess up with the F though. What bothers me because I've been trying to do this kind of thing lately.
Keep back up a little bit. Keep back up a little bit. Okay.
Like that country thing where you're playing the bass notes. But I've always played an open F like this. But now I'm trying to train myself to play it like this. And it's weird. Like it's like you think it was some like foreign.
Keep back up. So show me the open F.
So I usually play an open F like this.
Okay.
Like here.
It's a C chord, right?
Well, that's a C. You're right. This is stupid.
Okay.
This is a C. That's a C.
Yeah.
So, but it's the same principle with the F. So I'm trying to play the F where I'm going.
There we go. Okay, I got you.
But putting this extra fingering thing here instead of just doing an F like this, it's just boggling my mind. But anyway, back to Chris. So I would watch Chris and he'd be like, hot legs, you found me out. Hot legs. And then he'd be playing like a Zeppelin song, or then he'd be playing like an Alice Cooper song, or he'd be playing anything. And every time I would see like his hands, like he'd just do the cheater version of the bar chord.
Yeah. Yeah. A 5. Yeah.
I'd be like, every time he does it, this finger's here and this finger's here, 3 apart. I was like 3 apart, 3 apart. So then when he would leave, I'd be like, I would just be like,
I know that rhythm.
and I was noticing that, hey, this chord goes everywhere, does everything in every song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about minors or majors or nothing like that. But I just knew the hand position. So I literally learned how to play punk rock songs by watching Chris play rock songs like that.
That's cool. That's really, really cool.
So I started with bar chords, which is kind of like most people start probably with open chords and then move into bar chords, right?
That's actually what I do is I show them open chords, and then when they get that down, I'll go to power chords, 5s.
You got to have strength in we take it for granted that our hands, like my wife, when she tries to play guitar, it's like, oh, ow, my fingertips and all that. Like we just take it for granted that it doesn't.
Hey,
you always want to go, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. But
Surprisingly, I've got grown men, 6 foot big, who can't play an F chord.
Yeah.
And I got the kids who can't play it either. But it's like, well, listen, kid, these old guys can't do it, and they're super strong. And I look at these
Yeah.
old guys and thinking, well, the 6-year-olds are getting it. I think you'll get it too.
Yep. Is that an orange you got right there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little one.
Yeah. This is a little practice one.
Nice.
I love this thing so much. And sometimes I'll put it up on my desk. But I love it. One of the I don't want my wife to know. I'll probably edit this part out. But this one I'm really, really stoked on. It's an American Fender.
Oh, nice.
But check this out. These aren't normal.
Oh.
Yeah, the
What do you got?
humbuckers.
What is that? What are those?
HHS or HHS. Humbuckers, single coil.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, usually it's just 3 humbuckers or
Right.
three single coils, but
yeah, you got
yeah.
the fat, the beefy back ended. Yeah.
I had to do it. And dude, the craziest thing growing up, I'm thinking, oh my God, I want to be like Slash. So I got my Les Paul that I had to get through a car accident. But that weighs on you. It gives you back problems and shoulder problems.
Oh, dude, I have a bad because that's what I use all my life.
Yeah, you got it. But then I'm thinking I'll never play a Fender, and then I picked up a Fender, and I'm like, oh, okay, game over.
Yeah.
Do you know Rory Tallman by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Plays drum.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was in the surf band with the guy, and he actually sold me my first Fender.
Nice. I play a Telly a lot. But I use an orange. I use one of those Rocker Verb, the 2550 combo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's your setup right now?
It's an orange, the 2550, the one that switches from 25 watts or 50 watt, and
Gotcha.
212. I think it's the Rocker Verb. It's put away right now, but and then I've been using my Les Paul again. I've been using my original Les Paul that I recorded all the Tramps records with.
Oh wow!
But I have a Telly that has 2. It doesn't have a standard Telly setup though. It's got humbuckers in it. It's got
okay.
Whatchamacallit, Seymour Duncan patent.
Yes.
The patent applied for whatever the 59s.
That's great. Do you like the sound? Obviously, you like the sound because you play it. But is there a pretty distinct sound between a Telly and a Fender or a Stratocaster?
No. Oh, between a Telly and a Strat? Yeah, classic Strat for sure. My Telly, weirdly enough, sounds so fucking beefy that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between my Les Paul and my Telly.
Okay. Wow.
It's so weird.
Wow.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And partly because of the humbuckers, but it's a very heavy ash Telly, and it's got a maple neck too, and the Les Paul has a freaking rose, not a rosewood, but an ebony neck. So, but I don't know, man. It's like a 70. I got a 70s Les Paul, and I have
That's cool.
A 90s Telly.
What's all your songs written on? An acoustic?
Mostly on acoustic, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to write on electric though. It was weird when I wrote a lot of the early Tramp first record stuff and some of the second record. I did write with electric. It's weird, but low volume.
Sure.
And, just in my room, I didn't have an acoustic guitar, so I just had the guitar that I had.
So when you were in Tramps, it's punk rock. When you get to Wax Apples, it's more bluesy.
Still a lot of the same kind of elements, but yeah.
Is it the same setup pedals wise?
The what? Oh, the same setup. My setup in the Tramps, the early Tramps days, was just a Vox Wah, a tube screamer,
sure,
and a tuner. That's it. So
I love that.
And then when Rule 62, I needed 3 different sounds. So with Rule 62, I was using a tube screamer, a rat pedal, and a Vox Wah and a tuner.
Okay.
Just those 4 things. And so what I would do was I had my rat pedal was kind of for way over the top. And then, but I didn't do a lot of solos. Actually, in Rule 62, I played no solos. None. We had a really good guitar player, John Goodell, and he was, if you listen to it, you're just going to go like, put on the song. There's a song called Cow. It's I believe it's the last song on the record. Okay. It wasn't our hit or anything, but you'll just like listen to that and just go like, whoa, shit. It's complex and it's layered and it's just crazy. But then with Wax Apples, I started using a flanger.
Oh yeah,
just a little bit, just on a couple songs. So it was the Vox Wah, the Rat pedal, the Tube Screamer, and a flanger and a tuner. And then now my setup is I have a TC. Gosh dang, I can't. I have a delay. I have a stereo delay pedal.
Okay.
That I use it only on one song. Still got the Vox Wah. I use a Maxim. Are you familiar with that company?
Yeah.
So they were the ones who, like the original, those old school original tube screeners that are super expensive that everyone wants.
Right.
Maxim made those chips. So if you buy the Maxim tube screamer, it's like $40 less, and it's the exact same chip as the old school bitchin'. I'll send you a picture of it if you need to.
Please.
And then, have you ever seen those little EP pedals?
No.
A little micro pedal. Well, so what's his name? Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters uses them. And I did a job for a guy, and he's a really good guitar player. And I made his bathroom. My company made his shower look all. We fixed a bunch of stuff and made it look great again. And he freaking sent me. He goes, "What's your address?" And he sent me a freaking this micro pedal. And what it is, it's the circuits from a old school Echoplex, which is what like Jimmy Page used to use for a preamp. And they didn't have any echo in it. They just used the preamp for this Echoplex thing. And that's like, it's weird. If you can look it all up. It's interesting, but it's whatever. It's an on all the time pedal though. You just turn it on and crack a little bit of sauce onto your amps. Like it's weird. It just gives it a little bit of sizzle. But so that's it. It's still a wah and a tube screamer, but now instead of the Rat pedal, I got rid of the Rat pedal and I use that little EP pedal now.
I pretty much do the same thing for all 30 years. I do Crybaby, AB switch, and maybe something else. But if I want,
you're switching 2 amps.
No. Like go from dirty to clean.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, and actually, now that I have weirdly enough, so the orange amp that I have with 2 guitar players, you always have that battle of the getting up over the other guy.
Sure.
Solos.
Right.
Well, Frank has an interesting way to deal with it. Frank plays a Tele through a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe or something like that. Yeah. But it's got an effects loop. So he's found that if he puts his boost pedal, his overdrive pedal through his effects loop, the boost is extreme, like crazy. Like he has to dial it down. He can jump it up. So I was like, oh man, Frank's solos are popping out. What am I going to do? Well, this orange amp that I have, it has a built-in attenuator. Are you familiar with
what's that?
What those do? So, in the old days, the dudes would get those Marshall Plexis, and then they would crank them up, but they would get those things called a power soak.
Okay.
You ever hear about? You're familiar with that at all?
No.
Okay, so what would be was a power soak would be in between the amp and the speaker. It's this module that was a separate module called a power soak, and so they would plug the output from the amp into that power soak and then into the speaker. So they would, how the amp sounded better cranked. Yeah. But it was too fucking loud. So that's how they dealt with it. They had the power soak. So it would fucking crank the amp, but then you would turn it down in the power soak. So it would only let so much, that power was going through, but the power soak was making it so that it wasn't super fucking loud.
Right.
And so Two Bags has this thing with his old school Marshalls. It's called a variac. And what it does is it starves the amp for voltage.
Okay.
So like you're supposed to be getting like, 110 from an average plug.
Right.
You turn that variac on and your amp's only getting like 90 volts.
Right.
And so at 90 volts, man, the breakup on those amps, it just sounds bitching. They're actually suffering. They're like, I can barely power myself. And you hit the chord and it's just like, it just makes this nasty bitching tone. Well, so Orange figured this out, and they have built-in attenuator in there. So it's like a power soak. So you can turn the amp up and then you turn that power soak down. So you're getting the effect of cranking an old school amp, but the volume is manageable. Okay. But it's foot switchable. This is where the mad scientist shit comes in. It's foot switchable. So what you do is you turn the amp up and you turn on the attenuator. So when I want to boost up, when I want to boost my solo, I turn the attenuator off, and then you got a loud motherfucking amp. And it's like, you know how if you're in a 2-guitar band and you just step on your fucking tube screamer, you're going up, like the volume is
not much
barely perceptible because of the square waves of distortion that happens with those pedals.
Right.
When you, like Frank, like I said, he uses his effects loop and that boosts like crazy. And I use that attenuator. I turn the attenuator off, and it's like, it seems so complicated, but once you like do it about 3 times, you're like, oh, I just turn that attenuator off and it cuts through like crazy. So when you go see our band, it's like, oh shit, I could hear all the solos really clear. That we're not relying on a sound man to like try to make all that happen.
So when are you guys playing next?
Who knows?
Oh, I guess nowhere.
When is anybody playing next?
Yeah, dude, I heard.
I'll let you know when we're all free to go outside.
I heard maybe not until fall 2021.
Oh, fuck, man. That's
what the hell? I think I've taken enough of your time.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, dude. I want to ask you. You've got. I'm gonna kind of set up the scenario. You got a young buck coming in. He has world domination in his mind. He wants to play guitar. He wants to be in that band. He's young. He's dumb. He's got talent. But what's the advice you're going to give him?
Quit. No, I'm just joking. Turn back now. Stay in school.
Now, let me give you another part of that question. So that's one part of the question. And then, do they search for that record label, or do they just get out and play?
Well, I think getting out and playing is the best thing, because you're all, like I said, people get real precious with their own art. So you're always going to love listening to your own music and stuff. But until you go take it out in the world, that's the test. You want to make sure, and no matter what you do in the music industry, if you draw a crowd, if you get out there and play and people respond, you're going to draw a crowd. Yeah. Anytime you draw a crowd, then you are sitting in the power seat when whatever the next step would be, whether the next step is getting your own record deal, getting a record deal, or making your own record. There needs to be people to buy it. So the only way you're going to really get out there, I mean, you can make moves on the internet and get some attention, but when you play live, you're going to become seasoned, So I always think getting out there and playing is the first most important thing. First most important thing is good songs. Yeah. So, and there's nothing wrong with, like, a lot of great, super great bands like the Stones and the Beatles, for 2 of the best bands, the biggest bands in the world, started out playing covers, So.
Okay. So back to the first part, what is your advice to that young buck guitar player who wants to do this?
What is my advice? Get out there and play.
That's it. Okay, we just said that.
That is my advice. Get out there and play.
Yeah.
Always
figure out
think,
what you want to be and get out and play.
yeah.
Hell, that's great. Thank you.
No worries.
I'm very grateful for that.